Hey, my short film got selected for a film festival at USC. What's up, it's a culture detective here investigating your favorite albums. And I am going to be late for school again. That's why I'm going to be quickly doing an mini album review video where I review several albums all at once because I don't want to spend too much time talking about these albums, even though I do want to talk about them for a little bit. And also, again, I have a social life now. I can't spend 7 minutes reviewing each album and a whole hour editing a review and then uploading it. I just don't have that time anymore. So, first album, The Chisel. What a fucking nightmare. Ugh. Hardcore punk band The Chisel has released an album. What a fucking nightmare. And this is some of the most exhilarating hardcore punk I've heard in a while. The vocals are off the walls and wacky. The guitars are enraging. Also, if you check their Rate Your Music page, you would realize that one of their genre labels is Oi! Exclamation mark, which is really funny. Apparently it is a kind of hardcore punk where it's also very melodic with a lot of screaming in sync rhythmically with the melodies. That is apparently called Oi, and I find that really interesting. Some tracks here are legitimately awesome, like Fuck Him, Bloodsucker, Cuts Like a Knife. These three tracks are highlights on the album in my opinion. Sometimes it's kind of melodic, sometimes it just pops off and goes insane. However, the reason why I think this album has room for improvement is because I feel like a lot of the album just feels a little bit one note. I don't know, it just could have been more interesting. I feel like I've listened to albums like this several times already, and there needs to be a little bit of spice in order for it to pop out there. So I'm kind of feeling a 7 out of 10 on this album. Next album I'm going to be talking about is the new BolisPupul album, Letters to You. So, BolisPupul, a couple years ago, he released the album Topical Dancer with another Belgian artist, Charlotte Adigerie, and I really like that album. And Charlotte Adigerie is the singer, and BolisPupul is the producer on that album. And this one is more of the producer side of the album. This is an electronic album with bits of vocals littered here and there. And first of all, one of the reasons why I wanted to review this album back to back with The Chisel is because the album cover almost looks exactly the same. It's a white frame album cover, and the length and width of that square is almost exactly the same as the previous album cover, which is kind of funny. Ooh, twins, or just, similar, look similar. Another thing is because this album has a lot of Hong Kong references and Hong Kong influences. The picture on the album cover features the artist himself sitting on a ferry between Central and the Tsim Sha Tsui district of Hong Kong, which is a legendary ferry service. So it's really interesting. Hooked me, got me interested. And needless to say, there are tons of influences on this album. We have a lot of Yellow Magic Orchestra, we have a lot of Talking Heads, a lot of LCD sound system, like the track Completely Half, where he basically comments on his half Cantonese / Hong Konger, half Belgian ethnicity. And this track is literally Yellow Magic Orchestra, worship. There's a lot of awkward, stiff singing, keyboards going up and down a pentatonic scale. It sounds interesting. I wouldn't necessarily say it's that groundbreaking or anything. And also the track Causeway Bay, B-A-E, not B-A-Y, is straight up LCD sound system worship. There's also bits of Cantonese littered all over the album on tracks like Frogs, Spicy Crab, Causeway Bay, and of course the track Cantonese. And it sounds really weird hearing them because I'm not used to hearing Cantonese in an electronic music context, so this sounds really alien to me, so that's kind of intriguing. There's a lot of kooky and eccentric production on this album that I really like. Big beats with metallic textures. The track Doctor Says sounds like a malfunctioning printer with some clean hi-hats. The entire track, however, features the same loop again and again and again. I just wish there's more progression. I can say the same for many other tracks on the album. Then we have Ma Tao Wai Road, which is basically BolisPupul's attempt to connect to his mother's roots. I really appreciate the kind of respect he has for the city, especially given that he's not really a Hong Konger himself, despite having some Hong Kong roots in him. Kowloon is a dizzying central track that sounds like it would just go too hard if it's being played at a club. And the album ends off with Cosmic Rendezvous, which is a mix of Eastern and Western styles of music together. There's a lot of cultural subtext to understand when listening to the album, and I can definitely talk a lot more on the album. It is very interesting. It's a little bit repetitive. I do really love the Hong Kong influences. I really like it when someone acknowledges my culture, but at the same time, sometimes it feels a little exotic, too exotic for its own good. Kind of feeling a 7 on the album. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the new Kim Gordon album, The Collective. This is another absolutely interesting album. So Kim Gordon, bassist of legendary noise rock band Sonic Youth, now in her 70s, has dropped The Collective. And this is definitely one of the weirdest albums I've heard in a long, long time, because Kim Gordon goes trap rap. Yes, so she decides to make experimental trap rap with a lot of industrial hip-hop elements, lots of noise, lots of distortion, lots of crazy song structures. It's an experimental, almost avant-garde response to the rise of trap music in the late 2010s in America. This album is incredibly bold, but also, I'm sorry, but I find a lot of the music here kind of annoying. The album opener Bye Bye has the deadpan vocals and distorted trap beats, and Kim Gordon lists off things that you would bring to a picnic. It's absolutely wild. And there are some tracks here that I'm not a huge fan of, like the Candy House with its crazed, muffled, auto-tune vocals, cowbell keyboards, breathy vocals that sound borderline demented. Yeah, it just sounds like a bunch of some of the most interesting and experimental trap rap from the late 2010s and early 2020s fed into a machine and churned out to something unrecognizable. And honestly, it is a bit obnoxious in my opinion, because it just constantly slams you with noise, but without any edge or interest, unlike Death Grips, you know. And the rest of the album feels like a temper tantrum, but in a sloppy way. There are definitely highlights, though. I really like the track Psychedelic Orgasm, which is so spacey and so drony it immediately reminds me of the no-wave sound of Sonic Youth. The track The Believers go extremely hard. We have Kim Gordon wailing, "Where is my car? Where is my car?" And the second half turns into this sweet drone. It's kind of dizzying and otherworldly. And even though I find some of the moments on the album annoying, I have to admit this is still insanely cutting edge. And I originally was going to give it a 4, but given how cutting edge this album is, I'm feeling a 5 out of 10. The fourth album I'm going to be talking about is the new AgusFortnite2008 and Stiffy album, Muria la Musica. Murio? Hold on, let me double check. Murio la Musica. So this is an Argentinian rap duo. I found out about this album on Radio Music. I thought the album cover looked really interesting. It's Beethoven pointing a gun at his own mouth, so of course I need to give it a listen. And it's not too bad, actually. This is classic Gen Z Latino rap music. It's super distorted, lo-fi, crushed, and overproduced with a lot of pitched vocals, producer tags mixed even louder than the rapping itself. And there's something lovable and charming about this kind of production. It's so messy and noisy, it's almost kind of charming. And I know it's a little hypocritical because I just criticized Kim Gordon's Collective for being too sloppy, but I feel like the sloppiness of the Collective feels accidental in a way. It feels almost like, haha, I'm doing it as a show off. I'm doing it to impress. Rather than this album, it's just, you know, this is what they do. Anyways, there are some good tracks here. Guiso is a club banger with a lot of attitude. Fernet is like, take your average trap banger, but then hit it with the weakest vocal deliveries ever. and disc scratches, and somehow it sounds fun. But even so, a lot of the tracks feel very derivative, and it still adheres to a lot of American trap rap conventions, therefore sounding outdated. The track Tres Patitos sounds like Drake if he's good and if he's a Latino. And that's not saying a lot because Drake isn't really that good or anything. So yeah, feeling a 6 out of 10 on this album. Album numero 5, we have the new Everything Everything album, Mountainhead. Yeah, this is still one of the most interesting and exciting pop rock outfits to come out of the UK ever since the album Get to Heaven. They've been trying to reach the same heights, but they have never done it because Get to Heaven is just that good. And since a couple years ago, they have made the transition to make music that's more computery, digital, futuristic, instead of something kooky and colorful like Get to Heaven. So Mountainhead is another step towards that style. It's really safe. The production is really sterile. The vocals, however, is wild and fun, and I really like that. There are some really catchy hooks on the album as well. The opening track, Wild Guess, is a really good opening with the blown out guitars, Radiohead-esque drumming patterns, and expressive choruses. The track Cold Reactor is a fun, catchy song. This is listed in the honorable mentions of my last year's favorite songs, so obviously this is not a bad song at all. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's not bad. TV Dog is actually a really interesting song in my opinion. It's the lowest rated song on the album, but I actually kind of like it. I like that it is a weird theatrical build up to a crazy finish. There's something cathartic about the ending of the track. Enter the Mirror is a mid-paced tune with muffled trap beats and bubbly keyboards that's mixed very crisp. And City Song is actually kind of moody and spacey as far as everything's music goes. And it kind of reminds you of Coldplay's X and Y in the best way possible. But the rest of the album just feels kind of plain, especially with tracks like The Mad Stone, which sounds like a lame novelty tropical pop song. However, I do really like the strange mismatching chords in the chorus, but overall, there's still something a little bit too sterile about the album. Light 7 out of 10. Then I'm going to be talking about the new JacobCollier album, Jesse, Volume 4. This is another album that I wish I just have more time to listen to and give it a full-length review, because it is another really interesting album. Why? It's because this is Jacob Collier trying to be professional, trying to be very artistic, trying to be very creative, and he is professional, creative, and artistic. And there's so many professional musicians and producers involved with the album. He's also well known for knowing a lot about musical theories, polyrhythms, chord changes, and progressions. So Jacob Collier is stacked. He's stacked with musical knowledge. And yet, the album just kind of falls flat, but not in a normal way. So it is a very interesting case study of why, you can have great knowledge, a lot of musical theory, a lot of great production, and you still fall flat. Because the album sounds AI generated. And I don't mean the album sounds basic or average, but it is almost like Jacob Collier takes a very specific style of bright, awesome, optimistic, blown out, modern pop music, take the best elements of it, and try to churn out something to impress. And that's the attitude this album gives off. This album exists to impress us. And I know music in general is supposed to impress, but there's something kind of hollow about Jesse Volume 4 that makes it feel like the entire point of the album is to make us go, oh my god, it's such a good album. He just tries too good to be hard. There's a lot of feel-good vocals where he's very confident in his vocals, and he goes up the high register, he goes down to the low pitch. The track Well takes those vocals, mixed with annoying grunge guitars and big slamming drums like it's some cool cinematic moment, and it's just trying too hard. The track Wherever I Go is his weird whitewashed attempt at smooth soul. And then we have the track Mi Corazon, which, I mean, come on. Need I say more? This is a big distorted experimental take on reggaeton. I like that it's experimental, But again, it's like, okay, you're just trying to impress us. Like, ooh, I can do reggaeton too with interesting production. Look, bam, bam, bam. And then we have Bridge Over Troubled Water, where we have this a cappella vintage ballad with vocal harmonies that came straight out of the 1950s or something. Again, it's like, it's so starry, and it's so like it's so showy. It's like I'm in some show. And then we have Box of Stars, where the first half sees him trying to impress hip hop fans. The second half goes avant-garde, and it has these, quote unquote world music. Oh, tribal drums. Oh my god, I'm incorporating other cultures' music. Oh, and then it just ends off with clashing walls of synths. Like, wow, this was such a crazy ending. Oh my god. So yeah, there's something about this album that just screams showiness. And maybe he's a great guy, maybe he's very acknowledged in the world of music. However, just didn't really hit right, the album. Feeling a strong 3 out of 10. To end off the video, I'm going to be talking about the new Mike and Tony Seltzer album, Pinball. Really cool album cover, first of all. Also, there are a lot of pretty decent tracks with very good production, good vocal deliveries. This, however, isn't the abstract artsy Mike that I'm used to hearing, so a lot of the album just comes off kind of like a dumbed down Mike, in my opinion. Tracks like Yin Yang and Reminiscing features woozy trap beats and big production, and it just feels kind of basic. However, there is still a lot of highlights on the album that I really like. I love the track Lethal Weapon. I think the beat is really good. Same I can say for On God, which features Earl Sweatshirt. It's a very subtle beat, but it works really well because we have some light trap beats and then some sci-fi embellishments, some keyboard touches that keep it very interesting. The title track features a lo-fi keyboard instrumental that's just smooth as fuck. And the album ending 2K24 tour feels very final. There's a sense of finality to its beat. Maybe it's because of its theatrical presentation, but it is a very solid ending. So overall, I'm really satisfied with the album. Maybe not one of the best rap albums of the year, but still one of the better ones. Feeling a strong 7. So yeah, these are the albums I listened to. What are your thoughts on them? Comments below. Let me know. Subscribe if you want more. Thanks for watching. I gotta go. Bye bye.